In the hour of the village's deepest sleep, the castle's silhouette is already etched against the sky. Its highest lantern is the only man-made light daring to rival the stars, and the sentinel behind the battlements is the first keeper of time on this slumbering land. The sentinel's gaze is the Lord's gaze. The darkness he sees is not void, but his property, still at rest. The faint light in the eastern sky heralds not only daybreak, but also the return of order and dominion. Signs of life stir from within the castle. The sounds from the stables and the first wisp of kitchen smoke together form the pulse and breath of this stone body. Its awakening is systematic, far more disciplined than the village's reliance on natural arousal. The cellar is the castle's stomach, storing the supplies needed to sustain its life. The watchman's lantern illuminates not just casks and grain sacks, but the guarantee of continuous operation. The Lord's awakening is ritualized. The items by his bed reveal the triple core of his identity: the prayer book for faith and soul, the dagger for force and vigilance, the silver cup for sociability and pleasure, each an essential accessory to his role as ruler. Dressing is the first performance of power. Compared to the serf's coarse wool, his linen and fine wool garments are a tangible mark of status. That pane of glass is a luxury that brings both light and landscape under his control. Morning prayer is the Lord's direct communication with God. Those hands, marked with battle scars, clasped together, show that his piety and his martial prowess are not contradictions. The parchment map is his mental chessboard. The coats of arms, lines, and borders define the gurju of his world and its latent conflicts. Contemplating the map is a strategic exercise regarding allies, enemies, opportunities, and threats. The steward's arrival marks the shift from strategic thought to concrete administration. The ledgers and documents translate abstract lordship into concrete income, expenses, and obligations. A substantial part of rule is tedious, precise financial management. Scutage, shield money, and forced labor are at the heart of the feudal contract. The former buys exemption from military service for his overlord. The latter extracts manpower from his underlings. The lord is the crucial middle link in this chain of power. The signet ring is law made personal. When pressed onto parchment, the lord's individual will transforms into binding public judgment. The heir's education guarantees political continuity. Latin is not just the language of religion, but of law, diplomacy, and learning. The awkward pat and the solemn handing over of the book reflect the aspect of feudal father-son relations where duty precedes affection. The permanent men-at-arms are the Lord's fist, the immediate enforcers of his will. Inspecting them is inspecting whether his core instrument of violence remains sharp. The armory is the warehouse of force. Maintaining armor is tedious yet essential work. Rust between the links is like a flaw in authority that must be meticulously removed. Wall repair is a classic scene of levied labor. The serf's numbness contrasts with the mason's focus. One provides brawn, the other skill. The Lord personally testing the wall is the final quality inspection of the defenses. It's not just a technical check, but a declaration to all builders. This work, concerning everyone's survival, must meet his standard. The forge is the incubator of war. Every arrowhead being forged is a future unit of deterrence or lethality. The steam rising during quenching symbolizes the transformative moment when metal is endowed with its martial purpose. Archery practice combines competition and record-keeping. The satisfaction of a bullseye and the laughter at a miss are both part of the training. The charcoal marks recording scores transform vague skill progression into visible, comparable data. The warhorse receives noble treatment. Checking and caring for its horseshoes is maintenance of a vital mobile asset. Hand-feeding the apple transcends master-servant dynamics, containing the bond of partnership between knight and steed. The gate's reinforcement is the joint of defense, requiring the toughest materials and craftsmanship. The sentry change is the heartbeat of vigilance. The bread and small beer are the minimal sustenance for this constant pulse, showing that watchfulness itself is a labor of expenditure. The noon bell is the metronome of communal life. The servants' queue and uniform food distribution reflect the discipline within the castle. The thick, substantial pea and bacon soup aims to fuel afternoon labor, not to delight the palate. The family meal in the solar is one of the Lord's few private moments away from public scrutiny. The white bread, roast chicken, and wine are not just better nutrition, but cultural symbols clearly demarcating him from the servant class. The lady's role is that of domestic manager and bearer of refined culture. Her quiet demeanor and care for her daughter shape the ideal image of noble womanhood. The garden is the small, tamed kingdom of nature over which she is permitted to preside. The Latin lesson represents the monopoly of knowledge. The priest's teaching combines religious authority with cultural capital. The courtroom scene concretizes abstract lordship. The peasant woman's complaint and the serf's defense are case studies in grassroots governance. The steward's tap with his rod is a physical reminder maintaining order and procedural solemnity. The baron's contemplation is the heart of the judicial process. The verdict, repair and chicken compensation, is typically mediatory and compensatory, not punitive. The bow of acceptance is a superficial submission to the Taijior's authority. The scribe's record transforms a one-time oral judgment into traceable precedent, accumulating the archive of rule. The friendly joust is a display of martial skill and a reinforcement of noble sociability. The simulated charge with its last-moment passing tests courage, skill, and absolute control of the horse, a ritual that transforms violence into art. The cheers of the onlookers provide the sonic landscape for the performance, elevating the contest's honor value. This simulates lethal combat within safe bounds, a unique way for knights to build understanding and trust. The merchant caravan breaches the castle's enclosure. The goods on the pack horses are fragments of the outside world. The unfurled cloth, glass beads, and spices are the faint early pulse of material globalization, knocking at the feudal manor's gate. The lady's haggling shows noble women's agency in economic matters. Her discernment about texture concerns aesthetics and propriety. The lord's interest in the dagger returns to his instinctive appreciation and desire for possession of fine weaponry. These few black grains could be worth more than a serf's labor for months. The raising drawbridge and falling portcullis are the final acts, switching the castle from day mode to nocturnal fortress mode. The clang of the locking mechanism is the hard, cold period at the end of the day's sentence. The row of torches lit along the walls recarves the outline of defense from the darkness and extends the sentinel's sight. The final glaze in the kitchen and the meticulous setup in the hall herald the night's climax, a feast designed to display status and cement social bonds. The seating arrangement is a three-dimensional map of the social structure. From the dais to the doorway, spatial distance corresponds precisely to social rank. The path of food distribution acts like capillaries of power, delivering the finest portions to the top, explicitly nourishing hierarchical difference. The minstrel song is living family propaganda. Transforming ancestral deeds into rhythm and rhyme, he subtly reinforces the diner's identification with and pride in family glory, turning history into a tool to consolidate present power. The departing lord retreats from the clamor of the public sphere to private silence. The spiral staircase symbolizes his transition from the center of public attention to an individual who must face his own thoughts and duties alone. The undiluted wine in his hand may be his sole, unshareable solace at this moment. Weariness in the candlelight replaces the day's authority, revealing the mortal face behind the mask of power. In the darkness he gazes into, the village's scattered lights and his castle's torches echo each other yet remain apart. Finally, all merges into night, leaving only this stony vessel of power and its undying watch to endure the long medieval darkness.